Psych! You thought this was going to be a fancy devlog showing you how proper and immaculate my process is towards my projects. Well, you thought wrong. Recently, for university, I had to go and make my own portfolio to show off all of my projects and work. But the catch was, I only had 1 week to do everything. But I didn't want to make an ordinary website, so I want to make something really cool to stand out to future employers. So I went and I created a 3D website. AKA, I used my skills with game development and combined it with website development. I've been seeing all these cool videos of people using 3JS, aka JavaScript, and making a 3D website for their portfolio. And man, it stands out and I really liked it. My issue is I only have a week to do this and I don't have the time to learn how to create something like that. So I went and I incorporated my skills with Unity and C# and tried to make my own version of a 3D portfolio. The concept was really simple. I was going to do it in the middle of a forest and I was going to represent all my hobbies and my skills through statues and items that click with me. And then the player model was going to be literally a 3D model of myself. The first step was to actually make the 3D scan of myself. So I went and I grabbed my phone. I grabbed a friend to take the 100 photos of me. We used the app Polycam and it turned out pretty decent. Bam! There I am. Chunky me in a weird 3D scan with no hands, messed up legs, and lack of feet. But considering this is the first time we've ever done something like this, it just needed some minor editing and tweaks, but otherwise, I gotta say this turned out pretty cool. But it was also kinda weird spending about 3 days editing myself in Blender and just staring at the screen of a 3D mesh of me. Okay, who knew there were so many bloody vertices in a frickin' 3D scan of yourself? I only have so much footage with this portfolio project, so maybe I should just make the whole video me filling in the holes of myself. Moving on from whatever the hell that was. The mesh was finally done. All the vertices was welded together, but I was running Excuse me. Anyways, what was I saying? Oh yeah, so the mesh is done, but I did not have enough time to make the animations myself. Time was really running out and I was starting to stress. So I went to every game developer's favorite website, Maximo? Anyways, so where you go to get pre-made animations and you apply to your assets, your meshes. And I went and I found about 3 or 4 animations that I really liked that actually worked well for my character. Just basic walking and jumping animations. And then all I had to do was actually connect the bones, the armature, to my mesh, which was easy. Okay, the mesh of me wasn't close enough to a human figure, or at least I think that was the issue, so I had to download all of the animations onto their own armatures, and then connect those bones to my human figure through Blender, and then input all of those animations into a single armature. Which ended up taking the whole day because I'm not a pro at Blender. And it took a lot longer than I wanted to, which made me even more stressed out because it was a university project. But it was fun. Then even after me getting that animation to work for my player models, apparently these amateurs, they have 0 back width. My shoulders, my arms were merging into my body because for some reason these guys are skinny as hell. So I had to extend the deltoids outwards further away so my arms wouldn't go into my stomach. After some minor editing to the amateur and the animation, everything started lining up pretty nicely, I have to say, so it was time to finally take the character and put it into the game. Alright, new issue with the mesh being inside of Unity. Half of my body and half of my face looks like mud. The texture actually was applying onto the mesh, but for some reason converting it from Blender to Unity, it was just giving this really weird effect to the light side, and that's what made it look like mud. The only way I could think of how to repair that was to fix the actual image of the texture, and I really just didn't have time for that. So, second solution, camera's just not gonna go close up on the face. Boom. We got all of the hardest things for the portfolio out of the way. So now it's just time to add the player controller, all of the content and all of my experiences into the actual website. So the first thing I started with was the player controller, which went very smoothly. I really like this. I like him turning in midair like that and doing 360. It's a great feature. No issues. Moving on. We're at the halfway point about now, so while we watch past me try to code the controls for the player, I think it's a good time to mention that this is a very new channel, and any support you guys could give would be greatly appreciated. If it's hitting the subscribe button, hitting the like button, or going in the comments and honestly critiquing my work, if it be the games I'm developing themselves, or the videos and how I'm creating them and what would improve upon that. Any criticism is greatly appreciated. Now, back to the video. After a very intense debugging situation, we got the player controls working. So now it's time to move on to adding stuff into the portfolio, like all the assets and my experience. The thing I wanted to add was my full name and 3D letters and add rigid bodies to them so physics would apply and you can interact with them to add better immersion. And honestly, they're so fun to play with, I just kept knocking them over for about 10 minutes. Welcome to Learning Time, where we teach you how to take components you see in this devlog and show how you can do it in your own project. Today, we're going to be going over how you put text into the world space. First, you grab the object you want the text to go on. You go and spawn in the text you want to use on the object. It will spawn a canvas and you have to go and switch it from screen space to world space. Remember to reset all the positions back to 0, just makes life easier. Your text is now within the world and off the UI, so go and shrink it and move it to the object you want it to overlap. Adjust your transform to match the object that you want the text to overlay. I went and I rotated my text by 90 degrees so it matches up with the cube surface. Adjust the font size to whatever you desire. I need a paragraph, so I'm shrinking it big time. After adjusting your text and the mesh that you want to overlay the words with, you should now have your desired results. Instead of just always relaying information through your UI, now you can do it within your world. I hope this lesson helped you. If you enjoy these little lessons in the video, or if you don't enjoy them, leave it in the comments. Now that the nerdy lesson is done, let's get back to actually designing the portfolio and putting all the assets in. I went and I added a headshot of myself that my friend Ryan, who's also a photographer, took of me, so future interviewers would have a better idea of what I look like. Next up was to actually add all the trees to give the portfolio a forest feeling. I'm going to use only low poly packs because this has to play on a website, so it has to load fast. To keep it consistent, I really only used 3 kinds of trees, and just to have a little bit more variations, all you do is change the scaling of the object and rotate them a little bit, and boom, you got yourself a little polyforest. Okay, I'm not gonna lie, I did not record myself designing the hobby area because I did that in the middle of one of my university classes. For the hobby area, I got statues and little descriptions of how I got into these hobbies. I didn't have time to make the statues, so I used a AI website that creates 3D meshes for you based on its description called Meshy, and I have to say, it turned out perfectly how I imagined it. So with that done, it was time to give it a thumbs up, yep, totally done, and then move on to my experience and my skill sets. I went and I grabbed every single logo for all the skills I was planning on putting in my portfolio. I wasn't sure how I was going to display it yet, but I sat with it and knew it had to be something creative. I went and I made the sign for my logos. I went and I made the sign for my skills. Yep, English. Moving on, this area will be where I show all of my previous job experience and my skills I can use with website design. While I was trying to come up with how I was going to lay out the skill area, I went and I added physics and rigid bodies to the statues. So if the player wanted to go and shove them over and have even a more immersive experience, they could definitely go and do so. After thinking for a little while, I decided just to mimic my portrait. And the difference was I was going to just put the textures of my skill sets on there. And I just had to figure out how I was going to make that look good on these cylinders. Here is all of the skill set lined up, all outlined in a white texture cylinder that rotates on its y-axis. I think it turned out decent, but here's the thing. I forgot to record myself doing this again because I was in the middle of class once again. And you're thinking, there's an easy solution to that. Just hit record in class. And you are right with that. I could do that. Moving on. Okay, it was time to show off the logos that I've designed in the past. I can't just keep doing cylinders though, that's gonna get old real fast. So I went and I spent 5 minutes thinking about it, and then it came to me. English. Ugh. Then it came to me. Projectors. Like an outdoor theater. I don't know how it actually came to me, or how I came up with the idea. It just popped into my head, so that's why I went and I created a slideshow that's like a projector. This isn't the final results of the projectors. I actually messed with it quite a bit until I landed on the results that I wanted. Everything was coming together slowly, but I realized I didn't give any history about myself yet, so it's time to actually put in the back the story of how I got into coding. If you're actually curious to hear about that story, I'll leave the link to my portfolio in the description, but I'm not gonna go over the details of that today. As I'm finishing up the About Me section, the portfolio was almost done. The only thing left was to actually show my experience when it came to website development, do a little bit of fine tuning, and the site would be finished. I had a day and a half left, so for once I was actually making really good time with my project. So I was debating about adding animals into the portfolio. But then I decided if I want to keep making good time and not have random issues pop up, I decided not to add them for the time being. I almost went and forgot a very important thing. My references. So future employers know I'm not an asshole and I'm enjoyable to work with. Or at least I hope so. Moving on. I just went in, I copy and pasted the other projector because really my references I was using was just screenshots of my 2D version of my portfolio. And honestly, having the two projectors right beside each other, I had a good feeling to it. Now it is the final part of my references, preferences, portfolio. I spent so much time getting screenshots and writing descriptions for my previous websites, and I spent all this time. I'm already done? Oh shit, that was pretty fast. Well, look at that, I got the website examples done. That was pretty damn easy. Now the only thing that's left is the fine-tuning, like adding borders so the player can't fall off the edge of the world, and adding some background to music. Of course, royalty-free, because I don't have money. And that is the end of the video. Thank you for watching, I hope you guys enjoyed. Now, I know there's lots of things I could have worked on, fine-tuned in the portfolio, but considering my time restraint of only a week, I'm quite proud of how it turned out. If you have any suggestions, any changes you think I should make to it, please leave it in the comments. I appreciate any feedback, and thank you for watching.